I'm okay with failure. It's not something that has ever really bothered me that much because failure always teaches you things. Failure is not necessarily a reflection on me unless I didn't put my best foot forward, unless I was completely unprepared. And I've had those moments before where I knew I didn't put my best foot forward. I knew that I showed up unprepared. And if there was failure with that, if I wasn't able to get past that, and there was failure with that, I knew who to look at. I knew to look at myself and and what changes I need to make sure that this did not happen again.
Everyone, welcome back to another yet amazing episode of Unexpectedly Successful, the show. And today we have this incredible powerhouse, Bettyna Julian. Let me tell you a little bit about Bettina. She has been in the human resource world. Yes, I said human resource world for over 15 years in the capacity of an analyst and helping organizations from within and then from outside. She started her own business 4 years ago, now helping organizations and their human resource teams to become the leaders that they wish to become, to then give the results that they aim to give to these organizations and serve the employees of these entities, which is so important. And then Bettina now has expanded to become a coach for women who aspire to become the career women they want to be, making money, the money that they deserve, and having the impact as an employee and within the organization. And I don't know about you ladies, but me as an employee, I knew I had a lot of points of frustration that if I had had Bettina as my coach, maybe I would have stayed in a better state in my previous employment. So it's super exciting to have Bettina. She is most proud to now be her own business owner because in her early years, she said, I would never do this. So with no more introductions, Bettina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
It is my honor. And let's dig into the nitty gritty here, Bettina. The first question I have for you, what does it mean for Bettina to be Bettina?
Oh, wow. It's a really great question. For Bettina to be Bettina, it means being authentically her. So being free. I am very much so a free spirit. And to be open and authentic and being able to not necessarily just speak whatever comes to my mind, but be able to share my truth. Also, to be a believer in God and Jesus Christ. That's also what it means to be Bettina, and to also just be a fun loving. I love to dance. I love music. I love to have a good time. I love to laugh. I am a laugher. I'm laughing all the time if I can, and so that's what it means for Bettina to be Bettina.
Awesome, Bettina. And I think I need to address the title you have on your website as having a PhD in SHIT. Tell us about that. Because you made me laugh when I read it.
So where that came from is I have a PhD in being a SHIT talker, and because so in my earlier years, I used to say that I used to talk a lot of crap, and
Mm.
really what it is I just have a knack for speaking to people. I have a knack for being able to not necessarily convince people into things that they don't want to do, but help people get across to the other side, helping people get to help drive people to the places that they want to go. So that was just my funny way, because again, I love to laugh and I love to shock people as well. So that's exactly where that came from.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you for that clarification. All right. So,
Mhm.
Bettina, tell me some of the most defining moments in your life that have led to you, Bettina, being a business owner right this moment.
So it's funny because, as you said before, my early as a kid, I used to say I'll never be a business owner because I don't want to sell. That's exactly what I said as a kid. Yet here I am as a business owner, and in my HR, in my human resources career, I have pretty much sat in every single seat of human resources, and most of them were not for me, except until I got to HR technology, which was for me. It was something that I needed to be doing. It was something that I great at. I excelled at it, and I loved doing it. And so, being able to have certain people come into my life and help me get that clarification of getting to that point of getting into all sitting in all of different seats and having random people help me find what was my niche, what was something that I really love to do, is one of the clarifying moments that helped me get to HR technology and helping HR leaders specifically use technology to help them actually become the HR leaders that they wanted to do. But one of the other things is that I didn't see anyone doing that in that space. I saw
Mm.
other HR consultants helping HR leaders with what we normally do, policy, creating policy, creating handbooks, recruiting for them, in which I provide those services as well. But what I didn't see was using the technology to help take those admin tasks out of their hands
Mm.
and helping them become HR leaders. I've had so many past jobs where, or worked for so many past companies or organizations that they weren't bad organizations, but the way they handled their employees may not have been the best, and especially not the best for me as a
Mm-hmm.
young woman coming up in HR. And then if you're working in technology, then you're also working where there's not that many people that look like you, and there's not that many women. And so and then you didn't have I didn't have the HR leadership to help me along the way, help me deal with
Mm.
that, help me build my career. They were things I had to research and do on my own because I wanted to, because I knew that there was something more. I knew there was something different. So that was the clarifying moment, was seeing that there was something missing, and I want to fill that. I want to fill that.
Awesome, Bettina. I have a couple of follow up questions. So the first one is, when you mentioned that as a kid, you used to say that you did not want to have your own business as one statement, followed by because you
Mhm.
did not want to sell. So can you recall when that belief came to you and you adopted it?
Yes, I can actually. I was a Girl
Tell us
Scout,
about it. Okay.
and and so I grew up as a Girl Scout. I was a brownie, and I was a junior Girl Scout, and we had to sell the Girl Scout cookies. And so I had to go to my neighbors' houses, knock on their door, and sell the Girl Scout cookies. I did not like doing that. It was not something I liked to do. I grew up in New Jersey. Sometimes it was cold. So I did not and then also it was very nervous for me. I was very nervous to have to go knock on people's doors and ask them if they wanted to buy something from me. Even though I knew these people, they were the neighbors I grew up with. So, but it just was nerve wracking. So it was, and part of the Girl Scout creed was, you're doing this because this is something that you could become an entrepreneur. You can become a business owner. And so my
Mm.
response was, well, I don't want to become a business owner because I don't want to do this. I don't want to sell. So that's exactly where that came from.
Wow. So because of the message that you were receiving in the training, you attached that uncomfort to becoming a business owner. So tell you became a
Absolutely, yes.
business owner about 4 years ago. So tell us the journey to you making a decision to do that. And as a side note, I believe of human resource people as like very structure, right? Follow the rules, stay in your
Yes.
lane. And so how were you able to go from that girl who felt uncomfortable to an HR who excel in what you were doing, specifically in technology, and then making that decision to say, I need to take that step for me?
So it was, and it was really because I am different. So I am structured. I am very much so a researcher. I love policy. So those are things that I do have in common with human resources. However, I am. I don't want to say human resources aren't fun, because we are fun in HR departments, and so I think we're probably one of the
Sometimes.
most. But amongst, I will say, I want to speak up for my HR colleagues that
Yes.
amongst each other, we have a lot of fun in HR departments. However, I always look different, and it's not even look different because of my skin color or because I was a woman. It's already look different because my hair was different. Like I have blonde, I think it's blondish, strawberry blondish right now. Or I would have some kind of braids in my hair. I loved colorful nails. I hated having, a French manicure. So
Mm.
just because I wasn't structured in some ways, I liked to speak out against certain things. I did not like to see employees being treated in a certain way or being treated unfairly, and I would speak out as an employee that didn't wasn't a manager, but I would just have a start a group of other employees where we would speak out against something that was happening at work. So these are the things that just happened, and so I was different in that way. And I ended up becoming a consultant for a system called Workday, which is one of the top HRIS systems. And I was working for one of their top Workday's top partners as a consultant, helping organizations implement this system. And it was it wasn't a decision because I was upset or I was angry or that I hated my job. It wasn't that, because I actually really loved what I was doing. It literally was a decision that I just heard that you need to not be doing this right now anymore. And your time. When I was working for Mercer specifically, your time with Mercer is over. And when I had that thought, I thought, this is no, this is not it. And I asked another colleague that worked at a different consulting firm. I was talking to her about this. It was the end of the year. It was around Christmas time. Bonuses were coming, and I said to her that I just feel like I need to leave my job before the new year. And I said, and I think I need to start my own company doing this. And she
Wow.
said, well, do you have any customers? And I said, no, I don't have any customers. And she goes, have you started working with an agency? I said, no, I haven't done any of that. And so she said, well, maybe don't just quit. Maybe wait until you get a customer and then start thinking about this. And I said, okay. And I listened to that. I listened to that advice. And so the new year came, new year came, and it was like heavy on my heart that I was still there. And
Mm.
so finally I said, okay, forget it. I'll quit around bonus, like when bonuses are supposed to get paid. So I quit at a time where I was going to get the bonus. And after I quit, they changed the bonus dates. So I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to wait for a bonus. Everything that I did was against the feeling that I had in my heart in regards to leaving that company, because everything went wrong. From the moment that I took that advice, and as opposed to what was on my heart, everything went wrong with that company afterwards.
So what happened in that period, Bettina? Like what
I
is it that went wrong?
Oh, well, like things like expecting a bonus and not having it because they change the dates. Companies have
Yes.
that right to change the dates of the bonus. So, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of employees do that. A lot of employees will quit based off of
Mm.
when they're going to get their bonus. It's a
Mm.
strategy. You want your money, you work for the entire year. You deserve it. But if
Yes.
you if you're not there by the time bonus is going to get paid, you're not going to get your bonus. And
Mm.
so they changed the pay date to a date that was past the date that past my resignation date. So I wasn't going to get, and it was our bonuses were great. it was a significant amount of money. So I lost on that. I ended up having to travel to California for a customer, and that travel ended up not just, it just wasn't a great trip. Usually when I traveled for customers, and I wanted to get to sell them on purchasing workday, and other things like that, are helping them cross that line of implementation, doing design. It just was not a great trip. It was trouble from the flight to landing to everything, and I never really had that experience before. So just a lot of things. Once I crossed the new year into that with that same job, even though I knew in my heart that I shouldn't be there, things just weren't as great as they normally were. So it
Mm.
went from a job that I liked and I wasn't having any problems to, as soon as the new year hit, problem after problem after problem after problem.
Wow. Wow. Bettina, did you do any planning in that period that would transfer into a smoother transition? Or how was that process for you?
Well, at the time, what I was doing was, and with technology, some of the things that you can do is, if you want to transition from working for a company into becoming an independent consultant, because that's what I ended up doing. I transitioned into becoming an independent consultant. You can work with recruiting agencies, and they'll help you find contracting positions where an
Mm.
organization will contract you as a consultant, and and you can do that. So I was working through that. So that was essentially my plan, to ease into my own business, was easing in that way, where I can still do what I'm doing now, as a workday consultant, and I can get someone to help me get that work. And so I
Hmm.
was interviewing, and I was trying to choose what agency I was going to work with. I was interviewing with different organizations to see, who was the right fit for me and if I was the right fit for them. So there was that happening at the time. I just hadn't found it yet.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Okay. So there was some planning behind it based on what is accustomed in industry. So is
Yes.
this
Yes.
transition fairly common, Bettina, or were you also different in terms of you wanting to transition as a consultant to become your own business owner?
It was just starting. So at the time that I did it, maybe there were maybe about I knew about two other people that had done the same thing. So
Okay.
it was just starting. It's much more common now, for
Mm.
people to transition in that way. It's less common for people to. It's what's less common is people usually stay, contractors. They usually stick with working with recruiting agencies. I made a decision early on. I did not want to work with recruiting agencies. I actually wanted to, because they take money away from you. And then
Yes.
sometimes you have to still deal with some of the red tape. And one of the things that I wanted to move myself away from was dealing with the red tape of
Mm.
corporations. So
Yes.
I dealt with it my entire career. Didn't want to deal with it any longer. So something I wanted to get, to remove myself from that. So that's the part that's uncommon, where people decide that I'm going to actually go get my own clients. I'm actually going to go to conferences and put myself out there, and get my own clients, as opposed to working with an agency. And also, even more uncommon is to expand from that and to do something completely different, like what I'm doing now with career coaching.
That is so exciting, Bettina. So uh, how long was it before you decided to expand into having your own contracts without going through an agency? And how was that process to get in there?
It took, I would say, about 2 years before I started to. It took me about maybe a year and a half to 2 years, before I started to work with other clients on my own, where people would actually recommend other colleagues, and other people that I work with would recommend organizations or organizational leaders to me. So that's how I ended up actually getting my first private client, was someone recommended them so recommended an organizational leader to me, and then it just blew up from there. And so that transition was really was interesting. It was scary to have to put yourself out there, because then from that point, once I realized that this is really what I want. I don't want to work with agencies. I really want to have my own clients. Then it was, okay, how are you going to get your own clients? What are you going to do? So that part was, and it going back to the I don't want to sell as a child,
Yes.
that part
Yes.
was the scariest part for me, because now I'm in a position where I do actually have to sell myself. So what did I do? I threw myself in probably the scariest possible possible option, where I went to the largest conference for this organization, and I basically was selling myself to organizational leaders that I met. So, and
Wow.
that's how I started getting clients that way.
So, Bettina, it sounds like a really big leap between that little girl who grew up to be a successful career woman to then being at this conference selling your services and knowing that it was something not necessarily common, right? Or usually seen in these places. How was, like, what do you do in order to take hold of that fear to not prevent you from taking steps forward to get you to that place?
I don't, it's so funny. I think I'm a calculated risk taker, and
Okay.
I am realizing that about myself. And actually not just now, even with the risks I took when I was an employee. So I worked for retail organizations for a lot of my career early on, and then I jumped to becoming a consultant. I didn't know anything about becoming a consultant. Public speaking scared me.
Mm.
It really did scare me. So knowing that I was going to have to stand in front of a whole bunch of people, depending on how large the organization is, I can have a room of a hundred professionals, 100 leaders, where I'm talking to them about this system and teaching them and helping them make decisions that are going to either make or break their HR policy, make or break their recruiting strategy. So I took calculated risks throughout my career without even knowing it. And only literally because I wanted to make more money. I wanted to do
Mm.
something different. I got bored with certain things. So because of that, it wasn't a thought of I'm scared of this. I was scared. I felt the fear, all of it. But more than feeling the fear, I felt the desire to make more money. I felt the desire to have a larger impact. I felt the desire to do something different, to learn something new, because I love learning something new. I love digging into newer things. So that desire was much greater than my fear.
I love that. I
And
love
I would,
that.
and also I would, through the transition, like as you're doing it, you kind of feel the fear. I feel like I kind of felt the fear, but I'm like, okay, I have to do this. I want to do this. And I'm changing my resume. I'm doing all of the things. I'm doing all the research. The true fear does not come in. So, for example, when I transitioned from being an HR analyst to a consultant, the true fear of that did not happen until after I got the job as a consultant. And then I had to fly to California to go to training for this system. That's when the fear really came. That's when I
Oh,
thought to
wow.
myself, what am I doing? Am I
What did I
crazy?
just do?
What did I just do? Because I left a large retail company that loved me, that, they loved me, and it was a safe job, for
Mm-hmm.
a company that had about 20 employees, unknown, unheard of. And I had to fly across to a state that I'd never been to go to training in a system that I never had worked in before. So that's for me,
Wow.
after I got that goal, was when the fear really came. Same thing with going into business. The fear really came when I had to go into that first client, and actually get have my first decision our first kickoff meeting for this project of implementing the system. I actually showed up that day. I was so nervous. I showed up that day, and I have a picture on my Instagram page. I have two different pairs of shoes on. One is black, one is brown. One was a pump, and
Unintentionally?
unintentionally. I had no clue.
Wow.
And I did not realize it until I showed up and I looked down at my shoe and I said, "Oh my gosh, I
Oh
have a
my
sling black and a
God.
pump." And I'm just happy that one was right and one was left. Like that was the
What?
great thing. But I had to just move with it. So the true, like you feel, it's almost like I felt the fear in the transition, but taking the steps keep you busy. Like taking the steps, making the decision that I'm going to do this, keep you busy. And then when you actually accomplish it and then you have to actually do it, for me, that's when the true fear actually hit me. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to actually show up now.
So Bettina, as you're describing those moments, it's like, oh my God, it's real. Now I have to show up as my own business owner and I have to deliver and no one else is responsible but me. You're describing a lot of the same thoughts and feelings that I've experienced as a business owner. And my question to you is, how have you managed those moments to not take you to failure, but to continue to allow yourself to evolution?
I think, not I think, I'm okay with failure. It's actually something that I say
Mm.
to,
Mm-hmm.
because I say this to, so with my consulting with HR departments, at the same time, I actually it gives me opportunity to coach their employees, and so something that I say to
Mm.
both my HR leaders and to employees is that I'm okay with failure. It's not something that has ever really bothered me that much because failure always teaches you things. So it's something.
Mm.
So that's how I deal with that, knowing that failure is not necessarily a reflection on me unless I didn't put my best foot forward, unless I was
I love
completely
that.
unprepared. And I've had those moments before where I knew I didn't put my best foot forward. I knew that I showed up unprepared. And if there was failure with that, if I wasn't able to get past that, and there was failure with that, I knew who to look at. I knew to look at myself and what
Mm.
changes I need to make sure that this did not happen again. But I'm showing up prepared. I do the research. I make sure that everything is going to be ready. And if there's still a failure, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to beat myself up because of that.
Mm-hmm. 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 So, I mean, it's if we're doing everything we have to do, then it's a moment of learning. And if we didn't do what we need to do, still a moment of learning because we need to
Exactly.
reflect back on how do I prevent this from happening again. I love that because we so often have a negative connotation to failure, right? As
Hmm.
like I fail and I give up and I go home and I cry versus it didn't go as I wanted it, but there is takeaways from those moments.
Absolutely. Like, something, and we just had the conference with Myron Golden, and I had been watching him on YouTube before. One of the things that I love that he says, because I say it in my own way as well, is that work always works. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that because I had sat, like I said before, I sat in almost every single seat in HR, and I didn't like most of them. Most of them were not for me, except until I got to
Mm.
HR technology. However, my edge when I first became a consultant was that I was new to HR technology. That wasn't where my career was in. My career was not in IT. My career was in human resources, but I knew human resources. I knew policy. I knew the HR partners experience. I knew the recruiter experience. I knew a payroll person. I even did payroll, which I would never do
Mm.
again. And much respect to anyone
Mm-hmm.
in payroll. But I knew the payroll
Ah.
experience. I knew the payroll experience. And so I was able to transition all of that work that I did not like with the skill of being able, the skill and the knack of being able to pick up a system pretty quickly and merge those together. So that's why
I love.
organizations loved me so much, because I understood
Mm,
what they were going through. I understood exactly what their issues were, and I was able to take that and translate it into a system to make it work for them.
I love
So
that. I love that.
work is always working.
Work is always working. I love that. And you know, Bettina, another important piece to highlight there is that sometimes as career women, as people who have been working hard to grow in our positions and acquiring experiences, we often undervalue the skills that we acquire, right? And we're like, but I'm not special, or I have nothing different to offer. But what you talked about is all those different positions, whether you liked them or not, taught you something that you could package and just
Hmm.
complement with something new to your set of skills, that now it was your differentiator as a consultant.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. And for my audience, start mapping what you know, because I am certain if you are a career driven woman, you have skills and expertise that you can bottle and put for distribution. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to take a turn here, Bettina. Can you share with us one of the most challenging moments in this business ownership journey for you?
There have been a few, and I would say it's what I'm going through right now with expansion, because I'm going to almost unknown waters.
Mm.
And specifically because when I transitioned into, I mean, I was an HR consultant already working for a company. And now I'm an HR consultant just working for myself as an entrepreneur. So it
Yes.
wasn't an unknown water. It was something that I already knew, something I'd already been working in for quite some time, something that I could easily sell to organizations and say, here's my background. Here's the knowledge. Here's what I've done. Here are the organizations I have worked with and helped. And, and so that was, I don't want to call it an easy transition, but it was a more favorable and more understanding transition. This expansion that I'm going into with career coaching is completely different. I've been career coaching women for quite some time, but I haven't done it in a way where I am making it a part of my business. So this is
Hmm.
completely unknown to me. What I'm doing, I'm sure I'm making mistakes along the way. So this is the most challenging, trying to figure things out, marketing, because now, you know, I'm not marketing to businesses, and I didn't need to
Hmm.
have ads when I was with organizations. I didn't need to post so much on social media when, because my customers have been organizations.
Hmm.
This, where I'm direct to the employee, I'm direct to people, and they need to see me, they need to know who I am. That is
Hmm.
completely different. That is posting for with that purpose and that intention in mind is a challenge for me. Thinking about these things, how am I going to get in the heads and the mind of these people that really, these career driven women that really want help, is challenging for me. So that has been probably the most challenging. This what I'm in right now is the most challenging part of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, I'm honored that you are sharing that with us, Bettina. And the follow-up question to that is, what keeps you going? Why not staying in the consulting, which is something known to you, and now you're successful in that piece?
It's because I have to do it. It's mandatory. It's something I've wanted to do for so long. It's a passion
Mm.
of mine. It's been it's speaking up for being an employee advocate, because that's literally what I call myself. So being an employee advocate is something that I have been since I've been an employee. I
Wow.
probably should, if I had ever been if I had ever worked for a company where I was in a union, I probably would have been a union rep. Like, so
Wow.
That's how important it is. That's how important it is for me. I have, and also I've realized just living the the struggle I've had financially in my career, knowing the skills I've had,
Hmm.
knowing what I put forth, the effort that I put forth into my career, into the work that I do, knowing all these things about myself, knowing how good I actually am, because it's not even being boastful. It's just a matter of fact. It's just a matter of what it
Yes.
is. So knowing all these things about myself, yet still getting paid what I was getting paid, and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that that wasn't okay, yet not realizing that that was me. Part of that was me. Part of
Yes.
that is the world, but part of that is actually
Yes.
me. So connecting those
Mm.
dots, it's something that needs to be told. It has to be said. Somebody needs to snap us out of
Mm.
this slumber that we're in, to let us know that we can change. You can change over from one side to the other. And I was able
Wow.
to do that before I became an entrepreneur. I was able to like snap out of that and say that no, I actually need to negotiate my salary, and not just
Mm.
when transitioning to one job to the other, even getting promotion. This is something that I need to ask for. I'm witnessing other I'm seeing other people ask for it. I'm seeing them talk their way into the salaries that they want, into the jobs that they want, into the roles that they want. Yet I'm not doing that. So there's something to be said about that. So I'm going into these uncharted waters because it has to be
Yes.
said. It has to be
Yes.
told. This story has to be told, and we need to change it. And we can't wait on organizations to change it, because they may not, but they're not going to change it to
Yes.
your satisfaction.
Yes.
We can't wait for the government to change it, because they're not going to change. They can only go but so far. They're not going to change it to your
Yes.
satisfaction. So really, we have to learn how to do this part for ourselves, and that's why I'm still doing it.
Bettina, you said you've been doing it since you became a career person. And it's so exciting that now you get the opportunity to help other women who have been there, and then accelerate their growth and to get them to a better place much faster than it would take them just taking steps as they acquire new knowledge. So you become their
Mhm.
mentor on top of being their coach. So for anyone frustrated with your salary, with your position, with the benefits, with whatever is frustrating about your current employment, you need to seek a career coach such as Bettina or somebody with the same skill sets, because you need to get there faster. And with that, Bettina, I'm going to ask you a question. What would you tell your 20-year-old self being in this moment for that person to learn?
I would tell her that it's not such a big deal. You're okay. Like, you're gonna get over the hump. It's not that big of a deal. I would tell her to always negotiate. Like, don't ever just take what they give you. Everything is negotiable. To always negotiate. And I would also tell her to continue saying yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And with that, I want to tell my audience that Bettina mentioned in continuing to say yes. She said that she was scared of public speaking. And in our most recent training that Bettina and I finished together, it was actually in becoming a transformational speaker. So Bettina doesn't only say the words, but she puts the work behind it, because I saw her growth from the beginning of the program to the end of the program, and how she continues to implement the lessons learned through that program. So thank you for continuing to say yes, because I personally remember being the highest education staff member with the lowest salary among the group. And I wasn't bold enough to renegotiate it to a place where I was satisfied. And so having somebody next to me with that knowledge and reassuring me on this is possible would have been a world changing moment for me. And so for my audience, please take a step towards the things that you want. Bettina, what are you most thankful about being your own business owner?
I'm thankful to this. Oh, wow, there's a lot. That's a tough, Griselda. That's a tough question. I'm most
Those are my
I
favorite
am
questions, Bettina.
I'm probably I'm gonna say two things. I'm most thankful that I can, instead of, because I'm starting to build a team now as well. So instead of
Congratulations.
having, thank you so much. So
That's a big
instead of
step.
having it is it's a big step, and it brings on a whole other set of, oh my gosh, what am I doing in this entrepreneurship journey? So as I'm starting to build my team, as opposed to, I love the opportunity of, as opposed to just having to take the culture that's given to me, or
Mm,
what I used to do instead was try to change the culture that was given to me. Instead of having to do that, being able to have a chance to create the culture with my
wow.
team now. So, and I know that I set the tone, right? And I appreciate that the kind of personality that I have has the chance to set that tone and really show the world that we can do this. We can build organizations that don't have a lot of red tape, that
Hmm.
actually promote their employees, that actually want their employees to be entrepreneurs. I talk to my
Awesome.
team about starting their own businesses all the time.
That's
And because I know they
awesome.
have the capability of doing it. And maybe they don't want to, and that's okay, because it's okay to be an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an employee,
Hmm.
because without employees, where would we be? So
Yes.
that's fine. But I still talk to them about it, because maybe they want to step out on faith and do it themselves.
Hmm.
And I love being able to create a culture like that, where I just have entrepreneurs. I don't even think of them as employees. I think of them as
Mm, I love
entrepreneurs
that.
within my organization. And I love having the opportunity of being able to do that.
I love that. So you said that you were going to say two things. This
I
is
think
two
that
things or the
I,
first
I,
one?
I think I think I mixed both of them into one, because it was really
Awesome.
the two things were, I don't have to deal with red tape and I get to create a culture, and so I just mixed them into one thing.
Awesome. So you minimized the pain that you had before and you maximize the joy to have your own culture, to nurture your own employees, to set this exciting, and also you're coaching them for their own growth, right?
Absolutely, because I want to be known as that type of employer. I want to be known as that type of manager, the type of manager that was the like I said, my mentors happen to have been my managers. The few mentors that I've had, they happen to be
Mm-hmm.
people who happen to manage me. They weren't just random people. Uh, and I think that's really how it should be. Yes, you should have other people as your mentors, but someone who manages you, that they see you for 8 hours a day, if you're working those
Yes.
kind of shifts, that should be the person that is mentoring you. And
Yes.
that should be the person that's encouraging you, that's telling you to do better and to keep on going up. I want my team to do better than me. I mean, I want them to be,
Yes.
I think they're smarter than me. I want them to do better than me. And I think that that's the kind of leader that we should all be. And I am honored to be that kind of leader.
That's so exciting, Bettina. And for my audience, when Bettina works with organizations, her statement is be the employer that employees have a hard time leaving your organization. And I love how it has come full circle to you being that organization in which your employees will have a hard time living if they choose to do that. And so I totally love it. I see the full circle here. Bettina, I have a very important question for this show. Were you
Hmm.
expected to be successful as a businesswoman?
Yes. I did. I did. I didn't expect to be a businesswoman because of that childhood thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't expect to be,
Mm-hmm.
but once I became a businesswoman, I expected to be successful. Like I said, most of the other consultants that transitioned into becoming an independent consultant did not. I don't think that they consider themselves entrepreneurs. I think they should, because I consider them to
Mm.
be entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that they consider themselves to be entrepreneurs. And instead of independent consultant, I always just called myself an entrepreneur. And it may
Awesome.
not have been the type of entrepreneur that people would have thought of, but I considered myself an entrepreneur. I always knew that my business was going to expand. I always knew that I would get to some point. I didn't know what that point was going to be, but I
Mm.
knew that it was going to be a point where I was going to be successful. I was going to make this business work, and it was going to be a known brand. I just knew that. So once I got here, I just believed it. Might as well. You're here, right? You
I
might as well believe it. I
I
mean,
love it. Yeah, exactly. We're doing it. So, and then like you said,
yeah.
work always works.
Works always works. So if this doesn't work out, something I'll get something from this where it will work out. It'll still be in human resources because I love human resources. I love working with HR professionals. I absolutely love working with employees and helping them along their journey. So it will still be in that, but it'll be something else if this is not working out. So for that, I say if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you might as well believe that you're going to be successful because you're here, you're in it, you're doing the work. So what's the point of not thinking that's going to be successful if you're doing the work? Don't do the work. Then don't do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that because we are in it. So, anyway, and if it doesn't work, it's just a way that we know it didn't work. Now figure out how it will work and continue going. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
Bettina,
Continue going. Just come up with a new
how
plan.
can you summarize your journey as a businesswoman in one word? What would that be?
Businesswoman. Innovative.
I love it. I love it. As you were describing yourself, I thought, this woman is so innovative and creative. I love it. I love it. So,
Hmm.
one
And
last question.
one of the reasons. Okay, can I just explain really quick?
Yes, of
Because
course.
one of the reasons why I say that is no one thinks of being in HR as creative, yet you are.
Yes.
And no one thinks as being a consultant or in technology, or at least my part of technology. I'm not building systems, but
Mm-hmm.
as we create creative, but you are. You really are creative. There are creative aspects to it. And I love to think about it like that.
Totally, because you take something that does not exist and you give it form and you implement it and then you tweak it. It's a creative process if we think about it, and that's really amazing because you bring creativity to HR and maybe that's an additional piece to differentiate yourself because sometimes we
Hmm.
don't have that in organizations. So, one last question, Bettina.
Okay.
If my audience, there is somebody at the edge of taking this next step for them and become an entrepreneur, what would you tell them? What words of wisdom would you share with them?
Do it anyway, regardless of what you're thinking. It's nothing but, creating an LLC and getting your tax ID. Just do it. That's really literally what I would say. Do it scared, all of the feelings that you feel, literally just do it because you will not regret doing it.
You will not regret doing it. Bettina and I are examples of that. And Bettina, as you were describing your evolution, it's like we don't know what is gonna come next. But if in 4 years you've done all of this, I just want to see the next 4 years because it's gonna be even greater.
Absolutely. Because if you think about it, if you don't start, you're never going to know what it is going to turn into. So if you at least create the LLC and get the tax ID, Because then if you do that, the only thing else that you have to do is start building a business, start selling yourself, start posting online. So at the very least, at least do that small administrative task. It's not that hard. You can go onto LegalZoom, I believe, and do it. It's really easy to do. So if you at least take that step where it's only a small administrative task, it doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, I'm out there now. But I believe that it's going to help you take the steps of, I have this, now what am I going to do with it? And so you can at least you can start doing things. You can start posting, you can start doing research, you can start doing small things to get yourself to that point. So if you're on the edge, I say just try it. Just try it out, because work is always working.
I love it. I love it, Bettina. And that is my last question. And I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom, for bringing your energy for talking about this process that has been for you, and your heart and your passion to help organizations build their people, and those people build their people within the organizations, and this exciting expansion for you. And before we go, tell us how our audience can reach you.
Yeah, so I am on almost all social media platforms, but you can find me on YouTube at Bettyna Julian, and you can find me on Facebook at Bettyna Julian, and you can find me on Instagram at Bettyna Julian. So
I love
very
it.
easy
I
to
love
find.
it.
I made it very easy to find. See, and even actually, TikTok is different. You can find me on TikTok under my business name of Lore Consultants as well.
Awesome, awesome. For my audience, if you are an organization that is looking for solutions on the human resource component, this is your girl. For any woman who is frustrated with aspects of your career, this is your woman. You know how to get a hold of her. And until next time, it has been my pleasure to spend time with you. More to come with Unexpectedly Successful, the show.